Okay, welcome to the week two go-to training session for the LA Film School, specifically for this class, English composition. This is sort of a makeup session. If you saw my announcement, there was a small emergency that happened Tuesday night during the regularly scheduled session. It's a little bit embarrassing, but I was out and about in town and I actually locked my keys in my trunk. So I had to call someone, pay quite a bit of money to get the keys out of my trunk, and I was not available to deliver my session live. But we'll get back on track next week. These training sessions are always supplemental, meaning you're not being graded over the material that appears in these sessions. Basically, I hold these sessions because I know that most of you are going through the assignment sheets very carefully. You're doing a great job being dutiful students and opening up the assignment sheets, reading them thoroughly, reading through the assignment descriptions, the frequently asked questions, looking at the rubric on the final page. Remember, on every assignment sheet on the final page, let's see, I have an assignment open already. Um, Remember, on the final page, you have a grading rubric so you can see what you need to do to, for example, receive an A on assignment or a B or a C, or I don't know why anybody would aim for something that's below a C, but you get this nice little detailed breakdown of what you need to do to earn a certain grade. So I assume that you're going through these assignment sheets pretty thoroughly, but I like to host these sessions because I know that sometimes people don't, or sometimes people take a quick glance at the assignment sheets, or they do read them carefully, but then they just forget some of the details. And I also realize that some people just respond better to, hands-on learning, even if it's at a distance, meaning I'm speaking to you now, not necessarily in a classroom setting, but it still is an online classroom setting. So for those of you who like the comfort of hearing the instructor's voice, like to get to know a little bit more about who's teaching, I introduced myself in the week one video. So if you didn't watch that, please, you might want to check it out. It's archived. Remember, on the main activities page, basically, if you click on this activity, go to training sessions, you'll see the schedule of upcoming training. So, for example, you'll see next week's meeting, which is Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific time. Okay. But in this activity, there are also the archived videos so you can watch. And I keep them pretty short. They're usually about 30 minutes, sometimes a little bit shorter, sometimes a little bit longer. And I mostly go over that week's activities. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about, first of all, the week one stuff. And I'll begin with kind of an apology, and I'm going to send out an announcement about this as well. I am grading your week one activities, okay? I'm nearly done with the discussions that you posted during week one. Remember, you wrote a couple paragraphs about your experiences with writing, one positive experience, one not so positive experience. I'm nearly through all of those as I'm speaking. It's Thursday night. Immediately tomorrow, Friday, I will be grading your first major writing assignment, the one that you submitted to turnitin.com. So don't be impatient, okay? The grades are coming and they'll start coming fast. It's just that this week I had to first concentrate on another LA film class that they needed responses immediately in order to progress to the next project. That's not saying that you guys are on the back burner. Next week, I will make sure that your class gets work graded first. But because the work you did in week one wasn't automatically setting up the next assignment, whereas the other class did, it's just that grading sort of, uh, got pushed aside. Not pushed aside, but it got put down the list of priorities. But you will be getting grades coming pretty fast, both tonight, which is Thursday night, and then tomorrow, Friday. Okay, but just some general responses on the week one work. You might have noticed that I jumped into the discussion board. Here is that week one discussion board, by the way. And I responded to 3 or 4 different students. Okay, each week I try to respond to 3, 4, 5 different students and mix it up from week to week, so I'm not always responding to the same people. But I sort of, if you read through my comments just out of curiosity, maybe you didn't, because if I didn't specifically respond to you, maybe you didn't look over my words. But I was really impressed with the job that everybody did. Okay, I don't know if it's the fact that Alexander here and who posted second, Cassandra, they were the first 2 people to post, and maybe they set the tone for the rest of the class. Sometimes I do notice that when the very first people post to a discussion board. Not always, but sometimes they set the tone for how the discussion board goes. So if two people, for example, don't write very much or just barely do what the assignment is asking, sometimes that can have a cascading effect and others sort of do the same thing. In this case, I wonder if Alexandra and Cassandra, because they posted a pretty in-depth uh, some pretty in-depth comments to begin with, if that sort of helped influence other people to do the same. Or maybe I just have a fantastic group this month. And I'm not just saying that, okay? I mean, I usually say that, but sometimes I'm kind of lying. but with you guys, I'm not. I really am impressed, not only with the effort that people are making, but the writing skills are pretty sharp. I mean, I might notice small things here and there, a grammar issue, a wording issue. Sometimes it's not happening often, but sometimes people are unintentionally slipping into text speak. So they might put the and symbol instead of typing the word and, or they might forget to capitalize proper nouns, people's names, uh, names of companies. Words like English is a proper noun and needs to be capitalized. So I'm seeing sometimes tiny issues like that, but I'm not seeing people who are completely disregarding the rules of writing. And the writing that I have seen is pretty solid, so I'm pretty impressed, and I'm excited to read and grade your first writing assignment that you handed in last Sunday, and I look forward to the work you're going to hand in this week. So keep it up. I'm going to go back to the main activities page and just show the discussion board for this week. There's yet another discussion board. As you can see, 7 people have already jumped in, and I'm going to start responding to them real soon. Okay, and as you can see, people are doing, it looks like I haven't read through them, but people are already doing a pretty good job. Okay. So let's talk about that first discussion assignment. And let me go back to the main activities page for a moment. As you can see, the discussion board activities are worth 5% each, which may not seem like a lot, but I sort of consider them easy points. I mean, they require work. You have to create a post that's following the assignment guidelines. Oh, here's something that I want to mention. I guess the number one issue I saw with the week 1 discussions is lots of people making that initial post, and that initial post looked great. What was there was terrific. They were detailing one positive experience with writing, one not so positive experience, but then they completely ignored responding to 2 of their classmates. And that's just 30 points that you're throwing out the window. So don't do that. Yes, you get graded on the quality of responses. So if you just write a couple words or you just say good job, I mean, you may get very few points or no points at all. But again, if you watch the week 1 go-to training session, I kind of discussed what you need to do in terms of responses. And if you're ever confused, you can just, again, look at the assignment sheet. Okay. It details what you need to do. So, like, for example, here's the assignment sheet for discussion number 2. And let's see, where is it? Okay, so here we go. Response post, due by Sunday. Okay, so you should be posting by Wednesday of week 2. If people post after Wednesday, I'm okay with that. I mean, try to get them done earlier in the week so that you're giving time for others to respond. But I'd rather have you post to the board than not post at all. I can always decide to take off a few points for lateness. But that original post is worth 50 points. That's a lot of points to lose for not doing it. But as you can see, you have to write at least 2 responses to classmates. Okay, and it gives you explanations, excuse me for coughing, what you need to do. But it mentions the RISE model. We discussed this during the week 1 go-to session. It's one of your assets for the discussion activities. You can always open that PDF and look at what the RISE model is. Or, as I've always said, you can just trust your own instinct. As long as you're responding thoughtfully and you're truly engaging with what one of your classmates says, basically it means that you're not just generically writing something just to fulfill requirements. I can kind of sense that when I grade. So whether you use the RISE model or whether you just use your own instincts to thoughtfully respond in an engaging way, raise questions, ask questions, propose things that maybe the writer didn't think about, in essence, being helpful, you should do just fine. Okay. And the frequently asked questions things. Here's for example, question: what is the RISE model? And that gives you a link to the RISE model. So if you're confused, you can check that out. Or here's a question: I don't want to give feedback to my peers. Isn't that the instructor's job? And then it gives an answer to that. How should I format my post? How should I type my responses? So you have a lot of information here to go through. So don't forget about it, please. And then on the rubric itself, of course, you can see what you need to do. So in order to get an A for the quality of your responses, you need to be responding to at least 2 people, and your comment should be specific, detailed, kind, and contribute to the discussion. You're providing your classmates with specific examples, and you're asking questions that further the discussion. Okay. Excuse me, I'm recovering from a cold. Because I mean, yeah, week one I saw people who weren't making responses at all, or I was being a bit generous because sometimes people were only making one response instead of the required two, and so I'd give 15 points for writing one of them. That's 15 points, half of 30 for writing one response, not two. But I could have been a little bit picky and said that the response might have been stronger. So this week I'll be a little bit sharper in terms of, and a little bit pickier about the quality of responses. So don't lose those easy points. By the way, while we're here with the discussion 2 assignment sheet, let's go over it carefully. We're basically preparing for what we're working toward in this class, which is an essay, a full essay, and later you'll actually include research into that essay, where you will discuss a piece of pop culture that has inspired you, or a social media site that has inspired you. So, to get you thinking about these issues, that's what discussion 1 is about. And here it tells you think about pop culture pieces. So, pop culture pieces mean basically there are only 4 categories you could choose from: films, television shows, music albums, video games. You should be choosing an example of one. So, pick a film, pick a television show, pick an album, not just a song, an album. An album is just richer to talk about, especially when it comes time to write your essay, or a video game. Um, and also think about social media sites that have inspired, influenced you, or empowered you in some way. Okay, so ideally, we're not just picking any film, we're picking a film that is important to you because it was inspirational. It influenced you or empowered you, meaning it really kind of gave you a boost of confidence, or it gave you direction in life, or you watch it and it makes you feel positive thoughts about X. Okay, so it should be an important piece of pop culture, or an important social media site. And basically, your discussion is pretty simple. Excuse me. For your first post in a paragraph or a brief essay, and I was impressed that some people in week one were sort of writing mini essays as their post. That was nice to see, though it's not a requirement. Discuss one piece of pop culture and one social media site. So you're discussing both, okay? One piece of pop culture, one social media site. You should be choosing something that relates to your degree area. So, I mean, I'm not going to get angry if you're a film student and you choose a music album to write about, but naturally, if you're sort of studying film, you should probably choose a film or maybe a television show. If you're studying music, okay, music production, say, you should probably be choosing an album. And if you're in video game design, a video game. Okay. But yeah, discuss one piece of pop culture and discuss how it's inspired, influenced, or empowered you. And be specific. Not only about the details about the piece of pop culture, because maybe not everybody's familiar with your chosen selection. Okay, maybe you've picked some obscure band whose album I've never heard of, or your classmates haven't heard of. Or maybe you've picked a small independent film that won awards at film festivals, but maybe not. Maybe it's not automatically known to your readers. So be aware that you're discussing things with specificity. Okay, especially when it comes to how it's inspired or influenced or empowered you. I want you to really not be vague or unclear or general about that. I want you to be very, very specific, right? I listened to, I don't know, Kanye West College Dropout when it first came out in 2004, I think it was, 2003. I remember because I actually had a music review blog that I ran for 3 years, and I would even receive sometimes free CDs from smaller labels, not like the major labels, to write reviews about. And yeah, I remember that album coming out. That was kind of exciting because he was sort of known as a producer, but that was his first effort as an artist. So let's say that album made an impression on you. You should be discussing why it was inspirational, how it influenced you, how it made you feel, okay, how it empowered you, and be very, very specific about that. Okay. narrate your first experience with this piece of pop culture. Okay, so narrate is just a fancy word for tell that story. Okay, bring us back to that moment. Describe that moment. Let's see. I should mention too that make sure that you're choosing a specific type of one of these. Okay, you're not writing about a person. Okay, you're not going to write about how Taylor Swift or Jay Z or who else? I'm trying to spread the wealth in terms of different types of artists or Katy Perry influence you. No, no, no. A specific film, television show, album, or video game. Okay. Um, and as usual, paragraph probably contains about 5 to 7 sentences. Although, as we've already seen on the board, people are going beyond that, which is nice. And hopefully, because you're excited about writing about these things, you should have no problem filling up space. But yeah, you're discussing both. Okay, one piece of pop culture and a social media site. Now, a couple of you might be saying, "I don't care about social media. I hate Twitter. I hate Facebook." First of all, think it through. Maybe there is a social media site that you're not thinking of, like Pinterest or Instagram. Okay. And if you're truly, truly against social media, I find that hard to believe because not all of the students here are younger, but they tend to be younger. You're taking classes online, so you should be familiar with the internet. I find it hard to believe that none of you are connected with social media. But if you're not, then choose a website that's meaningful to you. Okay, find some way to sort of complete the assignment on your own terms, but that's still kind of fulfilling the spirit of the assignments. Okay. So if you're doing that, that's all you need to do for your first post. And then by Sunday, you need to respond to 2 of your classmates' posts. So that's it. And it's important because you're sort of just right now doing a low stakes assignment. I mean, yes, I'll look at it in terms of depth and content and grammar and mechanics, but mostly it's low stakes in terms of I just want you to explore um, a specific piece of pop culture and why it's important to you. Later, you're going to turn these ideas into a more formal essay. But right now, I just want you to think about them and express um, your feelings about them. And of course, this is leading up to the major assignment, which this week is your next grade assignment worth 15%. So last week's assignment was worth 10%. This week's is worth 15%. It's called Your Media Influences and Inspirations. It's very similar to the discussion. So the good news is your discussion, I'm going to close this assignment sheet, is setting up your work to do for Sunday that's due on Sunday. Okay, it's very similar. You're going to write a 1 to 2 page essay that addresses one of the options below. You may organize your paper however you like so that it makes sense to your reader, or you can just answer the topics in order. Okay, so you can, in other words, you can have fun with it. Since there are 3 things to consider for either the pop culture inspiration, so that's a film, television show, album, or video game, or the social media site. And by the way, that's the difference between the discussion and this first writing site. For the discussion, I want you to discuss both a pop culture item and a favorite social media site. When it comes time to write the essay, I just want you to focus on one. So if you're more comfortable talking about a film rather than Facebook, then write about the film. And the opposite is true. If for some reason Twitter has changed your life in some way, okay, write about that, not a pop culture item. But here you have to choose one of the two. And as you can see, there are 3 items listed. Okay, and you can answer them in order, or because there are 3 items listed, that kind of sets up a 5 paragraph essay. If you want, you could have a short introduction, 1 paragraph about this, 1 paragraph about this, 1 paragraph about this, and then maybe a short conclusion. Or you can develop it however you want. Just make sure that you're using some sort of logical explanation, organization. Make sure that paragraphs stay focused on a single idea or point. Okay, that a paragraph doesn't start out one way and then halfway through switch to something else. But as you can see, you're sort of doing the same thing for whichever item you choose. So if you choose a pop culture item, first describe that piece. Okay. Uh, uh, so tell us what it is and describe what makes this piece unique. And the good news is, again, you've probably already started doing this in the discussion activity. Second, narrate an influential experience or moment of inspiration with this piece. Include sensory details. And let me say a little bit more about that one at a time. Okay, so we're narrating one experience or one moment of inspiration with this piece. That might be a little bit of a challenge for people because it's difficult to focus on a single experience or a single moment, but that's what we're shooting for. Okay, so we're not just talking about, I don't know, let's say you choose, let me think of a film. Let me think of a recent film because all my favorite films are like 60 or 70 years old. What's a good movie that I've seen lately? Oh my gosh, I can't think of something. And if this were a live session, someone could throw something out at me. Okay, forget it. I'll just mention a really really old film that I admire. Citizen Kane. You've probably heard of it, right? Famous film. Okay, so Citizen Kane. I'll describe what makes this piece unique. If I'm going to narrate the moment that I first saw it or the moment that I was inspired by it, I'm going to take the reader into that moment. Okay, I'm not just going to just write general comments about uh, Citizen Kane is such an important movie and it's changed my life. The cinematography is beautiful. It introduced lots of innovations for. It's like, no, no, no. I'm going to take you back to a specific time, either a specific event or that specific moment of inspiration, and kind of bring the reader there. I'm going to include sensory details and specifics. Sensory details, of course, means using the five senses, which are what? Sight, hearing, smell, touch. That's four. I always forget the fifth. Which one am I leaving out? Sight, hearing, smell, touch, and something else. Okay, whatever that fifth one is that I can't remember. You don't have to force in all five senses. Okay, it's a little bit awkward if you're talking about your first experience with a film and sense has no connection. Okay, maybe it does if you saw it in a movie theater and you could mention the smell of popcorn or something. But don't try to force in sensory imagery. That said, when you're bringing us into the moment because you're narrating, in other words, telling a story, yes, you should be trying to make it as vivid as possible. So that means how things looked, how things felt. Okay, uh, and finally, reflect on this experience and explain how this piece of pop culture inspired or empowered you. And again, you're touching on this in your discussion. So the good news is you're already working on this material. The bad news is just watch out for a pitfall that I don't see often, but I see it sometimes. Do not just carry over your discussion post. I've taken it down. But do not just carry over your discussion post from the discussion board and hand that in as your essay. That's not the assignment, okay? The discussion is sort of preparing you so you can write this more formal essay. Excuse me. And you're doing the exact same thing with a favorite social media site. Okay, so Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest. You guys can probably mention other social media sites that people like me aren't familiar with, and I'll be excited to read about them. So you're going to choose one of the two, not both. Make sure that you're proofreading. I think that goes without saying. Make sure that you're following APA formatting, okay? If you're confused about APA formatting in the week one video, during the last 5 minutes of that video, let me show again where it is so people aren't confused. So up at the very top, go to training sessions, okay? You go into the activity. Now my computer is being a little bit slow. Okay, these are registrations. So, for example, these first two are done. But if you want to join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m., just click on the link and you'll be registered. Show up at 7 p.m. and you can watch the session live. But you can see the week one session is already available. You just click here and it's going to take you to YouTube where you can watch the video. During the last 5 minutes of that video, I walk you through the steps of APA format. I show you how to create the cover page. I show you how to create a header. I show you how to insert page numbers. I show how to set up, paragraphs, how to indent, how to handle spacing, stuff that you think might be really basic, but you'd be amazed how many people, if they're not following the steps, subtly break some of the rules or don't follow some of the rules. So because you don't want to lose any points for formatting, please watch the final 5 minutes or so of that session, which you can find here. And it'll be easy peasy. Okay, you'll be fine in terms of APA format. And again, you're going to be uploading your work to Turnitin.com. I don't think anybody's having problems with that. I know I still need to go over there and do the grading on those assignments. Again, that will be completed hopefully tomorrow, Friday. But I didn't notice any problems. I saw the 11 or 12 of you who completed the assignment. All 11 or 12 of you handed something in over at Turnitin.com, in addition to clicking on the I have completed this activity button on the LA Film School platform. Okay, so that's where you're handing it in. And the rest of this, I'll just let you read on your own. Again, you have frequently asked questions, and you can see what you need to do well. So you can see formatting is only worth 10%, but again, why throw away that easy 10%? Okay, all it requires is you watching the final 5 minutes of that week one go-to session, and you'll be golden when it comes to formatting. Yes, when we get into the research component, we're going to add some more steps: how to create a references page, how to handle in-text citations. It's not difficult, but it does require a few extra steps, and it's not difficult, but it probably is a bit more complicated than just the pure formatting. The formatting is easy, so don't lose those 10 points on that. Um, okay, so just as a quick recap, you have two major assignments to work on this week: the discussion board and the second writing assignment. Don't forget to take the reading quiz, which is based on these assignments that you had to read for this week or view in the 2.1 activity. But otherwise, it's just a matter of completing the discussion, working on the second writing assignment, and yes, making sure that you're completing those interactive modules at McGraw-Hill. I was also happy to see that most of you are doing just fine with that. They're pretty easy, no? Some people it takes less than an hour. Some people might take 2 hours, but I don't think it takes too long. And again, they're easy points. Okay, you complete those interactive modules to 100%, and you get all 3% of those points. So keep taking advantage of those easy points. And otherwise, the other thing I have to mention is, yes, grading is coming. I apologize that things have been a little bit delayed this week. By the way, technically, I have a full week to get grades back to you. So if something is handed in on Sunday, I have until the following Sunday at midnight to get things turned around. But normally, I don't like to wait that long. And I'm guessing that you don't either. So keep an eye open for grades that are coming fast and furious today, tomorrow, maybe a tiny bit into Saturday morning, but they are coming. So anyway, I hope you find this session valuable. If you have further questions, make sure to reach out to me with messages, okay? It gets lonely. I hear from some of you, but most of you I don't. So if you have any questions or concerns, please send me a message. Anyway, so thank you very much for viewing, and I'll talk to you later.